in a dramatic move, you've got South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol, who declared an emergency martial law on Tuesday, accusing the opposition of controlling the parliament, sympathizing with North Korea, and crippling the government and anti-state activities that are, well, quite rampant, according to the president. During a televised briefing, President Yoon vowed to eradicate pro-North Korean forces and protect the constitutional democratic order. But the exact impact of his decision on the country's governance, of course, remains unclear. Now, President Yoon's approval and his approval rating has taken a massive hit recently. And since assuming office in 2022, he's faced significant challenges, to say the least, in pushing his own agenda against an opposition-controlled parliament. The political tension intensified over next year's budget bill and Yoon's dismissal of calls for independent investigations into scandals involving his wife and other top officials. In response, the opposition Democratic Party has reportedly called an emergency meeting of its lawmakers at this point in time. Joining me on the broadcast to decode and discuss what's really happening in South Korea is Dr. Zakir Hussain, Middle East expert, and Major General Ashwini Sevach, defense and geopolitical expert. General, I'm going to quickly come to you first. It seems like this is internal bickering with an opposition-controlled parliament and President Yoon not being able to push his own agenda and policies more than the North Korean aspect. Of course, with Kim Jong-un being a neighbor, anybody is going to be a little precarious as to what's happening on the border front. But this is a little bit of infighting in South Korea as well. Correct me if I'm wrong here, General.
Absolutely. See, Kabir, as far as North Korea is concerned, the threat is looming large for not now, but for last about 15, 20 years. And North Korea is building up its missile, the heat of it. And he thought that he will not democratically able to operate. And this is the only way that he will declare emergency martial law so that, he can now sort of have more power with him and able to push his agenda. Let's see how things build up. But certainly it is not the North Korean angle. It is a more of a domestic issue.
Also on this front, let me bring in Dr. Zakir Hussain on this front. Dr. Zakir Hussain, very quickly, just to understand, you concur with what General Sevach here is saying, more of an internal crisis than Kim Jong-un?
Yes, I agree with him because it is more of internal crisis. And what will be the end result of this martial declaration? When he is going to hold election, again the democratic process will set in, and already his image has gone down. How he is going to make it up? And on the other hand, we also find that the opposition was having some relation with China also was going there. The factor is there, but that is not very much high. So what he will do after when he will end the martial, this is a very big question for him, and how he is going to save his position.
Could one sort of put a comparison, and this is to both my panelists out there, could one put a sort of comparison with as to, how the Kremlin is saying that Biden does not want the Ukraine war to end, Zelensky doesn't want the Ukraine war to end so that he can, not relinquish his position. On the other hand, many are saying the same for Netanyahu, given the kind of wars Israel has waging on in the longest time now. Could this be a similar situation for President Yoon, sort of securing his own position first?
Of course.
You can go ahead. You can go ahead, Dr. Hussain.
Yeah, of course, you are right in that one. But what I feel that how US and Western countries are going to react about this martial, because they want democracy in South Korea. Otherwise, there is no difference between South Korea and North Korea. So here, situation is a bit complicated in that way. The situation is not like that. What Yoon is trying to pose.
Come in on this one as well. The opposition that, in South Korea, what they're essentially suggesting is that under President Yoon, this is authoritarianism. There is claims of political manipulation, of course, concerns over civil liberties as well. So you've got arguments on both sides. Which side of the fulcrum on this Libra scale do you think is heavier right now?
As far as president is concerned, he is feeling that he's quite weak. Because in parliament, he does not enjoy majority. He's not able to function. His popularity has gone down tremendously. A number of charges are against that, corruption charges against his own wife. So he was feeling very vulnerable, and he thought that there is no way that he can function independently and actively. And he thought that this is the only way that he can now declare emergency martial law, and he will have more power with him, and he will be able to push his agenda. But I have my doubt whether the US will like it, because very rightly brought by co-panelists The thing is that what is the difference between North Korea and South Korea? That in case South Korea also have a martial law. The only difference that North Korea is a communist country, whereas South Korea is a vibrant democracy. But once you declare an emergency martial law for a domestic region, I don't think that the US is going to like it or other European countries are going to support it. I suppose he will have a big challenge with him, and the opposition is becoming stronger by day.
All right.
So now let's see how things fan out. But as on today, it is more of a domestic pressure than anything else, and the pressure will mount on him from US and other European country to revert back to the democracy.
All right, Dr. Hussain and General Sivach, we're going to shift our focus here, but of course it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen next in South Korea. You rightly pointed out how the West world is now going to react to this. That's going to be interesting to see, but could this be a flare-up on the border front? Because we've all been talking about the Kim Jong-un factor, but we still don't know what Kim Jong-un is now going to do after this emergency declaration of martial law in the South Korea. Of course, we'll have to wait and find out as to what happens next on this front. The opposition in South Korea currently in a huddle with all those lawmakers, and of course they control most portion of the national parliament over there as well. Very interesting development. We're going to have to wait and find out what happens next.